This is Isa Sachs, one of our community advocates. She joined us 6 months ago. She's one of the little treasure that we have found, and she will be the one monitoring this session today.
Wonderful, thank you.
Welcome, everyone. So this is one of the most exciting sessions. I love all of it, but this is one that I've been looking forward to the most. So I'm very excited to have you all here. Before we begin and before I go through the introductions, I just want to take this moment to thank all of our audience who have been here since the beginning. Our numbers have not gone any lower since we started. And thank you for sharing your time with us and staying with us until the very end. So, okay, there we go. We have Johannes. Okay, all good. So now that we are here, we will now begin our next session, which is Social Media Secrets, how to maximize your social power for common good. Before we begin, we would like to ask our audience to type on the chat, what questions do you have regarding social media? We will have a Q&A session later, but I would like to get your input from the beginning so we can have the discussion and make sure we cover all of those important topics. There we go. Okay, so first I would like to welcome our panel. We have Dr. Shruti Kapoor, who is the founder of Safety Trust. It's an NGO whose mission is to educate and empower women and girls against gender-based violence. And she is also one of the most influential people in global policy in 2019. So welcome, Shruti. And next we have Dr. Johannes Drooghaag, which we will fondly call and refer to as JD for this session. He is a consultant, trainer, speaker, and author in the fields of cybersecurity, business, technology, and social media. So you see him regularly as a commentator on international media channels and captivates an international audience with thought-provoking articles. Welcome, JD. And of course, we also have with us Dr. Jennifer Williams. She is the executive director at Take Action Global and the co-founder of Teach SDGs. As an educator and an author, she champions teachers to use educational technology purposefully for the planet and its people. So welcome again to all three of you. Without further ado, we will go straight to the point because this has been, oh, I hear a bit of echo. Again? Okay. So without further ado, our very straightforward question. What secrets do you have, and could you please share with us? How can we or anyone become a social media influencer for social good? So this question is for all of you, and I will start with Jennifer, then Shruti, then JD. So Jennifer, please.
Hi, Isa, and thank you for having me. I too have been so excited for this panel. I think it's our practical tips panel, and I'm a practitioner, so thank you for inviting me here today. I also wanted to thank Gail and Adam and everyone part of the summit for including representation of education in today's conversation, something I've been fighting for so long. So thank you all for seeing teachers as part of this work. So I'm here representing the 85 million or so teachers of our world. And I love seeing our friends from Teach SDGs and Take Action Global in the chat today sharing. So teachers are here, they're showing up. And to your question of becoming an influencer, and I think for me, this is really the result. So the magic is more in the connection and then the influence in the form of the impact that is possible with social media. I say for me, every great opportunity I've had in the past 10 years somehow stems back to Twitter, which is so funny to say, but the connections I've made in social spaces, the people I've met. And I think for us with Teach SDGs and Take Action Global, we really started with purpose. So I've heard purpose talked about in some of the other earlier panels. And so when we started out, we were on this mission to find ways to get educators into these conversations. And we started with a hashtag. And for us, that was the key to get us started. And so your question to us to kick us off was around some secrets to share. And we've learned so much. We are a community-driven organization. And so thinking back on just 3 quick tips I would have to people here today around social media for impact. First is look at your own profile on social media. So if you're thinking about Twitter, or Facebook, or Instagram, or LinkedIn, we have been given this gift of space. So we have the space where we can add in headers and images and hashtags of causes that you care about. I know today with our hashtag, a lot of people put that in their profile name. So I can search that. I easily can find people associated with this event. So people are searchable. We're able to be consistent. So from one social media platform to another. So people really start to understand you and your brand and your message that you are working for each day. Another thing would be to be responsive. So we are unfunded. We're a group of volunteers. We're a scrappy group. So we have to be present. We have to show up. If people are using the hashtag, finding ways to connect with them, to amplify their work, and to celebrate them as they're going along. And then finally, I would say to be responsible. I think we have this huge responsibility to make sure we're sharing information that is accurate, that is built and based on science and data. In a social network, everything is going to be built on trust. People are verifying you. They're making sure what you are saying is truthful. So considering that as you share. And then just last, it would be for you to be nimble and ready for change. So we have had to pivot. I started off really in spaces around Twitter. Now I'm really interested in what's happening in Instagram. And so I'm very, very eager to learn today from this session and my fellow panelists. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I hope everyone's taking notes because I'm definitely taking a lot of mental notes right about now. And over to you, JD.
My secret, which I share with everybody, is 4 points. Be kind, be genuine, be informed, and be authentic, or practice what you preach. And when you take that, people start to recognize that you really care about what you speak about, but you don't step on other people's toes by just being kind. And when you do that, and when you combine that, people start to appreciate what you do because they recognize that being genuine, that being really pragmatic. Being informed is important. As Jennifer mentioned, there's so much fake news out there that being truthful and making sure that what you share is correct becomes even more important. So people start to accept that what that person shares, I can rely on that, and it is interesting. And when you keep doing that, and when you keep moving forward with kindness, with being genuine, with being informed and being authentic, you start to create an audience. But if you don't, it starts working against you. And let me give you one example. A friend of mine is a master with AI. He also uses that sometimes to verify what people say and what they do. And he does that just by social media. He just analyzes their social media platform, or he lets the AI do that. And he discovers really disturbing things. When the first wave of this horrible pandemic was rolling through Europe, it was so popular to post, stay home, stay safe. But his algorithm discovered that roughly 1/4 of those posts were made by people who were not at home at all when they posted that. He even discovered somebody who had the audacity to post, when you do not stay home to protect others, you are complicit in a global homicide. And that person posted that several 100 kilometers away from where he lived on his vacation address. He does the same with sustainability. And he found a CEO of a green consulting company who had stated online that there is no place for people who do not live a sustainable life in his company, which sounds good. But the problem was he posted that from a cruise ship in the Caribbean, where he had flown to with his entire family from Europe to enjoy a 4-week vacation. So it doesn't match, right? Now, the human brain cannot do millions of posts within a few minutes, but it can identify those differences. And I'm very interested in technology. So I asked my friend, can you also identify people who have that perfect match. And I gave him my friend Tom Raftery as an example, who is all about sustainability and about renewable energy and electric vehicles. And that's what he speaks about. So I asked him, with Tom's permission, to check him. Within a few minutes, that algorithm confirmed by looking at Tom's social media profile, yes, Tom is really speaking about what he does, and he does what he's speaking about. People do that at a slower pace, not with 1 million posts in 2 minutes, but they do identify that this person is genuine and that person is not. Now, when you are genuine, you will build that audience. When we look at Jennifer, we will see that Jennifer does on Twitter a lot of things which she is also reflecting to in her life, and she's educating people in that area. And you see that, and that makes you build a community, that makes you build people who really want to spend their time on your social media profile. And that's really important.
Thank you so much, JD. That's a very good point on social media, that the intention and the approach should match whatever it is that you're putting out, be it content, the way you write it, how you post it, choosing what to post, and etc. That's a really good point. Thank you so much for that. Let's also hear from Shruti for your own secrets, please.
Thank you so much. So I really echo my fellow panelists, what they've shared. I think being a social media influencer, and this is not to minimize the importance of it, is in some ways a little bit overrated. And we are all chasing numbers. You know, we believe that the more people that follow us, it means we are having a greater impact. But to everybody listening here who is still not an influencer, so-called influencer, I want to tell you, and I want to reiterate that everybody here is an influencer in some capacity, right? You are influencing your own circle, your own network. And sometimes, you know, your circle might be 10 people, but if you are able to convince those 10 people to do something, to take action, or to support a cause, that in itself is influence. So, you know, don't get bogged down with numbers and believe that you're not an influencer if you don't have thousands and millions of followers. Each one of us, like, you know, our panelists said, have a platform today, have a voice, and we all care about some issues or the other, some SDG or the other. So let's all use our platforms to talk about issues that we care about. Because you know what, you never know, like the one person who's following you, or you know, they might be influenced by the post you put up, and they might take some action. They might donate to a cause, right? And that I believe is a powerful influence, and that is your influence. So again, don't undermine your influence in your immediate network. So your influence could be on your family members, your friends, circles, you know, the people you teach, the co-workers you work with. And so coming back to, and you know, JD said it beautifully, in order, you know, some secrets of social media is of obviously being authentic. You know, people very quickly can see if you're inauthentic, if you're doing things only for numbers, if you're doing things only for likes. That really comes across very easily in your posts. So you got to be authentic about the issues and causes you're passionate about. You know, ask yourself, why are you on social media? I'm on social media, you know, I'm on Twitter for safety, which is my organization, and we work against gender-based violence. So I use Twitter as a platform to raise awareness around issues that women face related to violence. But I'm on Instagram to share pictures, you know, beautiful pictures that I post, and they're not the same for me. The two mediums are not the same. The two goals are not the same. So I think it's important to ask yourself, why are you present on a particular platform? And then stay true and authentic to the purpose you are on that platform. So, you know, engage regularly. A lot of people feel like they can, you know, post something and then disappear for 2 weeks and then come back again. If your followers don't know what to expect from you, it's going to be hard for them to keep engaging and staying connected with you. So engage with your followers regularly, be authentic in what you're posting, and then just connect, you know, build a community, be patient about it. Social media does take time to build, and to build that community and to build that engagement. So I would say, again, just a reminder, everybody is an influencer in their own capacity. So really use your power and use your platforms to talk about the issues you care about. Thanks.
Thank you, Judy. I'm actually really glad that you mentioned that about an influencer, because I want to then throw the question again back to all of you, to all three of you. What does it mean to be an influencer? And let's stick to, we don't have to necessarily stick to the social media, but as that is the topic where we're at right now, what does it mean to be a social media influencer? And how then do you measure social media impact? I totally hear you when you say it's not just about the number of followers that you have. I also agree that it's more quality over quantity. You know, it's about the actual connections that you have and the relationship and the community that you are building. And so with that, what does it mean to be a social media influencer? And how do you, in what way do you measure the social media impact? Jennifer.
So impact is something we've been thinking a lot about recently. So we have students all over the world that are taking action for social change for our planet and for people. And we have so many stories of these students every day. They're creating advocacy campaigns. They are inventing, they're experimenting, asking questions, doing interviews. So we have all of these cases. And for us, when we think about how, though, do we share out that impact that these students are making beyond just gathering so many stories. So I know when we think about impact with social media, a lot of times people will think of analytics. So to an earlier point on number of likes and number of reshares. So I know in traditional marketing, those are going to be things that matter if you're thinking about impact. But for me, it's not. That's something actually I don't even pay attention to. I'm not looking at number of likes or number of people that follow someone. I know algorithms now within Twitter, at least, it's really if you have 500,000 followers or 5 followers, it's just, are you engaging with that content? So we're constantly thinking about content that's going to matter to our audience, that's reflective of the work that they're doing, that supports them in taking action. So we have this great community of people that are volunteering their time. We heard from in an earlier panel about the importance of volunteerism. And so people that are ready and to go out there and help do the work. So we don't have to take it all on by ourselves. So I think the stories that we do hear from people that come back and say, that piece of content that you shared enabled me to then go out and take action in my local community. For us with Teach SDGs for a long time, we said, is what we're doing, because it takes time and capacity to do things like monitoring a social media account and communicating with our network. And so we said, is it something like our ambassador group? Is that something that has impact? Is it something that we should continue to commit to, where there's an application process and it's vetted and we have people reviewing these applications, and then it takes time to then communicate that information back out? And so we were on the fence of, is this something that's impactful? And we heard from people in places like Africa that said that digital badge, being able to put that on our email signature and being able to put that on our social media profiles, that gives us power. That allows us to go to our ministries of education and have a voice in those conversations. So for us, it's always thinking about what with our audience does matter to them. With impact, with things like the SDGs, we're constantly having to think about what data matters, and not just the qualitative stories that we're able to gather constantly, but how do we get that into things like, a carbon calculator that we're thinking about now. And our work is around education and climate. So we're heavily focused on SDG 4 and SDG 13. So impact for social media for us is something we consider, but not in traditional ways, I would say.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Over to you, JD.
Well, first, let me tell you that I fully agree with Jennifer that the classical KPIs and the amount of likes or etc. are not really relevant. I have a free white paper on our website called Agile Digital Marketing, in which I describe that it doesn't matter that 1 million people have seen your post when none of them actually interacted with your post. And on the other hand, if only 10 people seen your post and one of them decided to buy, for example, the book that you want to promote, that's a significantly more effective social media campaign than the 1 million likes which were just generated because it was trending or happy or people liked it or you're popular or whatever. So having impact on people is significantly more important than popularity or people, the amount of people who see it. You see that a lot happening with trending. Every now and then I manage to get a post which is trending. The engagement with that post is not even 1,000th of a post which is really authentic content and people positively and actively engaged with that. And it is very interesting to see. So that would basically say that a high level of likes and popularity leads to lower engagement. And we see that when we look at the classical metrics. And the other thing that we have to keep in mind is that it's just like saying good morning. When you enter a bus and you say randomly good morning to 10 people, one of them might think, oh, that's nice, and just have a 5-minute more pleasant day. And maybe one of them will then say good morning to somebody else. And that's influence, because you created something. You changed maybe somebody's mood, which is much more important than the amount of people that were in the bus and could hear you say good morning to somebody else, right? And all of that works from my perspective with being authentic, with having good stuff. The part which I had to learn, because I started on Twitter being active about 3 years ago, and I posted a few weeks ago, when I had a conversation with a client, I only had 33 followers. Nowadays, I have 33 or even more thousand followers, and that was a very steep growth. But the amount is not that important. The content is important. The people you interact with is important. And what you need to be careful with is the content from others that you share. And that's my advice to everybody. Don't just share it because you were mentioned or tagged or because it was sent to you. Share it because you agree. And if you don't agree, don't share it. I don't care how popular it is. I don't care how much you like that person. If you don't agree, don't share it because it is attached to you. It is linked to you. And if that's not the message you want to bring, don't put it out on your network. Because there might be out of the, doesn't matter if you have 100 followers or 100,000 followers, there might be people who say, why is he or she sharing this? That is not the thing he's normally telling me, right? So that filter is important. What others share with you and you put out on your profile. And that's your responsibility. You cannot influence what they share, but you can influence how much of what others share you put out on your profile and into your network and into the people you want to interact with. Those are my thoughts on this.
Thank you, JD. I feel like the focus is now becoming, what I expected was a bit more the practical tips. You know, a lot of people think it's, so how many likes should I be aiming for? And how many shares will qualify me as an influencer? But I'm glad that the discussion is going beyond the numbers and it's bringing focus back to the people behind the phone and behind our laptops and our computers, and really focusing on meaningful interaction in whatever form that may be. And so I know that Shruti, you already mentioned about your views on what makes, you know, an influencer, but could you also just add a bit more about how then do you measure, let's say, social media impact, and how do you look at it with yourself and your team as an influencer?
Yeah, so nothing different from what, you know, JD and Jennifer have already shared. I think for us at Safety, our impact is dynamic, and it depends on, different projects. It depends on different campaigns that we are doing on social media. So for example, Like currently, next week we are hosting a summit on self-care. And so right now, everything related to self-care on social media, the impact that we are trying to measure is how many people register, for the summit. For our popular Twitter chat, which is Safety Chat, which happens weekly, the impact is measured by the community that we have built over the past 6 years, right? So impact really is not just numbers. Sometimes it is qualitative in nature. It is, a follower or a participant of that Twitter chat telling you at the end of the chat that this chat made my day, or, oh, I learned so much from this chat that I'm going to take this now and, spread it to my through my grassroots organization or through the people I engage with, right? So impact really, you have to ask yourself that when you put something out on social media, what are you looking for to get, like, are you putting out a campaign because you are promoting, something and you want people to be more aware about it? And so, then the impact measured is different. Or you want engagement and you want to build a community, then the impact is different. So I think at the end of the day is there is no constant, that just having numbers is the impact. You have to ask yourself, different campaigns, different messagings have different goals, and based on those goals, you decide how you measure impact. It's a challenging thing to do, especially in the development world. Sometimes it is not easy to measure impact. We are, for example, raising awareness on ending violence against women. A lot of it involves in changing attitudes and mindsets of people. Now, how do we measure change in mindset quickly, right? It's a long-term process. So how do you measure impact? And so sometimes you really have to get creative when you are looking at impact and think, okay, you know what, I can't measure change in attitudes and mindset, but here is something I can do to kind of capture the impact. So again, I would urge people to rethink the purpose on why they are sharing something on social media, and then, using that goal in mind, try to figure out a creative way to measure impact. So it's not just always numbers. Thanks.
Thank you, Shruti. That really resonates with me. And I think also for a lot of people here today who are on social media, that it's also very important to really think about why you're doing something and making it count. There's a lot of noise on social media, and let's say you're competing with everybody else. And with that, when we're all filtering what we want to see, it's important for us when we post anything, share anything, create anything on social media is why are we doing it and what is our goal, and hope that people can see that and react to that and resonate with them as well. So with that, I will just go to my last session. Not last session. I'm not in a hurry to end. My last question for this panel, which is a bit two-pronged actually. So as I'm from ConnectAID, I'm really curious to know your thoughts about, as a international solidarity network, what do you think is the potential of ConnectAID in SDG-focused work? And with that also, we are not the only ones on this vote. There's nonprofits, there's all of you as well, who are with their own groups, with their own projects. And a lot of our challenges, really, with regards to social media and many other things, is not enough capacity, not enough time, not enough finances to back up. And there's a lot of, it's a big challenge to cover everything that's needed for social media. So with those limitations, what would then be your advice to ConnectAID and other nonprofits? Let's start with Jennifer, please.
Thank you. So this is something we think about every day because we're always faced with limited capacity. And Gail said a word in an earlier panel, this word of solidarity. And that made me think. I had been in a meeting at the United Nations. We were a small group of educators back in 2016, and we had been invited to come as we were looking to see how can we get teachers plugged into this work. And I remember we were talking about this word collaboration. We want to get teachers collaborating and working together. And Ambassador Decima Williams was in the room with us, and she said, I'd like to pause there. You use this word collaboration, and I think we need to move to the next level of solidarity. And Gail echoed that word today. And I think that is what this organization is doing. We are bringing people together in community. And I think what we've tried to do, we're heavily focused on SDG 4 and the work that we're doing. SDG 17 around partnerships. We're small. We're looking at how can we cover Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn and make sure we're responding to hashtags and teachers who are doing great things out in their classrooms and amplifying. And so we look to the community to help us with that. So we're trying to empower them to share. We have partnered in the spirit of SDG 17 with an organization that has students graduating high school and in their gap year program before they move on to university, and they have internship opportunities. So we welcome in these young change makers to help us, and they lead our social media accounts. And so for us, it's this combination of original content, because that's always something that's a challenge. How are we, creating blog posts or creating white papers or things that could be useful for our network of teachers? We have informational and inspirational content. So there's wonderful things like quotes or pictures of our beautiful planet that we can share to keep people inspired. And then sharing the work of others in the community. So that's something that's very important to us. So we're not trying to just share about the work of teachers, but how can we be inspired from others doing the work? So another point, though, too, that I wouldn't want to leave out is entry points into social media, because we're all in this connected space, but we're still a tiny group, people that are on Twitter. And when I speak of educators, it's a small percentage of educators that are operating in social spaces. So trying to find entry points for them. So giving them, and I know Gail and the team have done this all along over the past months. There's been so many months of planning for this special event today, but sample tweets, remixable images, videos that people can share, kind of giving them the script on how to get it out. And then my other advice for nonprofits or groups, even just an individual, just one person, is create space for synchronous sharing. So asynchronous sharing in social media is great. So we're able to go in 24/7, reshare, find hashtags, but bringing people together, even if it's a 1-hour webinar, or if you use tools like StreamYard or Hopin, there's free tools out there. Instagram stories, getting people to come in, sharing that human perspective, having people use things like hashtags around those events, which for me goes back to access to information, access to ideas, and access to opportunity. And I really believe these small NGOs, us, the people in this community-driven organization, we're going to be the ones to make it happen.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jennifer. Let's go to JD, please.
What I would like to share and also contribute to ConnectAID and Gail as the initiator is that as organizations or as individuals, we have a very healthy focus on something. We specialize in something. We are very passionate about something. But the problem is, we don't create an orchestra by hiring a bunch of violin players who all play the same tune. We create an orchestra by having all kinds of different instruments and different musicians. Even the director of an orchestra has input and an impact on the final music as you hear it. And ConnectAID is building that orchestra out of all those instruments and all those magicians and all those different directors. And by bringing all that together, we can really, really make a difference. And when we tie that back to social media, what we want to talk about in this little group today, we can make a big difference. And when we do that together as ConnectAID, suddenly we are making such a wonderful wave of change and a wonderful wave of motivating other people. But it starts by bringing the people together. One example. About a year and a half ago, I was talking to Adam Rogers, who has been very active for ConnectAID as well. And our conversation was, the problem with sustainable development goals is that most people think that's a United Nations thing. It's our thing. And out of that conversation, we came up with the idea to make 17 short videos in which Adam explains each and every sustainable development goal. in a very personal manner, talking to the people viewing that. That's 1.5 years ago. People are still looking at that. That's wonderful. If we bring all these things together, and we do that all together, and I can create short little videos, and Gail can bring people together, and Jennifer has this wonderful focus on education. And all these people together build an orchestra that covers the entire world, the entire community, and we start loving to listen to that music. And that's what ConnectAID does. So Gail, thank you for making this happen. I have not seen such a global, holistic approach to getting people together. Thank you.
Thank you, JD. I love how you just refer to us as an orchestra. Everybody note that one down. And we'll go over to Shruti also.
Yeah, I think, my advice to ConnectAID and any NGO working in the spaces, I think know your strengths. Not everybody can do everything, but there are certain things you do best and you're good at and you're an expert at. So first, identify those strengths. And then, like JD said, collaborate with people, with organizations who are better at things you are not, which means you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to be, the first person doing everything. There are many, many organizations, experts, and people out there who are doing it already. Find those people and connect and collaborate with them. So, if we all start doing that, one, we will put less pressure on ourselves to constantly be there everywhere, do everything, because, as an NGO with limited resources, we really have to pick and choose what we want to focus on. And we really should be focusing on our strengths and what best we bring to the table. Because like JD said, it is really an orchestra, right? And the best music comes out when you bring these talented people together, in cohesion. So to anybody who is running an organization, I think there is a lot of pressure on us to constantly be there doing everything, be the first one. You want to be on all social media platforms, but be real. Like, sometimes you don't have the capacity. You don't have to be on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. If your audience is on Twitter, focus there, and that is okay. So yeah, again, find your strength and use your strength, and then, find the right partners to collaborate. Do not reinvent the wheel, because a lot of times we feel like we need to do this, just because somebody else is doing this. Somebody else is already doing it. Connect with them, collaborate with them. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Thank you very much, Shruti. And I think those are advice for our nonprofit partners as well, because I've always been saying that. Like, I've always seen working for UN organizations or nonprofits, everybody reinventing the wheel instead of collaborating and working in solidarity. So this is really something important that you're saying. We can work together. We can do this together. And we are an incredible force. And now, Jennifer, JD, Shruti, thank you so much for being our new ambassadors. We have a wonderful team, and we are going to connect a lot and communicate, because that's what we do best, and help each other. And this is just the beginning. So thank you very much. And we will now go to the second half of our session with social media secrets. Thank you.